Bitcoin can be divided out, clear out to 8 decimal places. So even if the price were to rise a lot, just about everybody in the world could probably get a fraction of a Bitcoin and still insulate themselves somewhat from any type of economic or currency crisis.
And welcome into crushthestreet.com. I'm Kenneth Amaduri, and I looked at the Bitcoin price right before I did this interview, and I saw it very close to $1,800 or $1,900 on this app I follow. We're going to have another digital currency talk. I have Charlie Epp on the line, also known as Bitcoin Charlie of easycryptocurrency.com. Charlie, first-time guest, thanks for coming on the line with me today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Kenneth.
Well, sir, hey, I appreciate everyone out there educating people on this very, very interesting topic. I was having a conversation this morning with a very known gold bug. I won't say who it is. And he told me straight to my face today to sell my Bitcoin and put it into silver. Now, to be fair, I don't completely discount that advice considering what we've seen Bitcoin go as high as it has, and how undervalued I feel silver is. But it was the tone that he said it in. He doesn't believe in this trend. And you know what? I own both. So I don't feel like underexposed to either one. But I'd like to get your thoughts on where we are with Bitcoin at the moment.
Well, I really think that that's probably the opposite direction I would go in, because I believe that if we have another economic event or even a currency crisis, I think all the gold and any type of precious metals are going to be scarfed up overnight, and that's going to leave the average person left out hanging in the wind without any opportunity to pick up any of those metals. And that's why I see the cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, having such a huge upside. As many as your listeners may know, Bitcoin can be divided out, clear out to 8 decimal places. So even if the price were to rise a lot, just about everybody in the world could probably get a fraction of a Bitcoin and still insulate themselves somewhat from any type of economic or currency crisis going forward.
Charlie, but I would just to acknowledge gold and silver in that situation. If that did happen and there's this massive supply shortage in the physical, the price for physical precious metals, you agree, would skyrocket as well in that situation.
I agree, but I also think that the actual physical supply and people actually being able to get their hands on any is going to be almost gone. I don't foresee that as being a realistic opportunity, because as we all know, most of the investors come to the party late, and if they're to the party late, they may not even have the opportunity to get their hands on some gold and silver. I'd say that's a good investment as well, and I would never discount it.
Okay, so we're at all-time highs with Bitcoin, and you know the alternative digital currencies are doing well as well. And I want to get your thoughts. How early in the game do you feel we are with Bitcoin at the moment?
I think we are extremely early in this game, because I think, like I was saying earlier, if we have another type of economic event or currency crisis, everybody's going to rush to find whatever they can, and they may run to the junior miners, they may run to Bitcoin, and when they do, that's just going to drive the prices way up, because the few people that do have it, they're going to demand more and more money every day to try and have people sell it to them. So I think that going forward, the upside for Bitcoin is definitely, it's very, very early in its infancy.
Well, one of the pieces you wrote that basically says the same thing is that, and it puts it into some numerical perspective for us, and that is 99% of the world has never heard of this great investment. So I'd love to get your thoughts on in that sense as well, and how early we are in people adopting this great investment.
Well, I think that probably, to put it in a better perspective, is only 1% of the world has been lucky enough to even get in on this investment. Fortunately, I was pretty fortunate. I stumbled across it back in 2013 when it was right at about $200 a coin. And I got in then early because I was pretty hesitant. I was pretty skeptical of it myself. I didn't believe that there could be any type of electronic currency that couldn't be replicated and reproduced and be be secure. So I was somewhat on the fence as well. But I think going forward, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, and the estimates on Google right now are about only 1% of them have even invested in a Bitcoin.
Okay. Well, we did see what happened in 2013 where Bitcoin did outrace the fundamentals. It got ahead of itself and then it crashed back down. And, speculation is something that we are seeing a lot of in these digital currency space. And I don't discount the fact that we could see another big correction. I don't know if it's going to be as hard as we saw in 2013 because of I think it got it so much ahead of itself and the fundamentals weren't there, whereas the fundamentals here are much stronger at these current levels. But I'm just curious, how much further do you think we can go here? And, what do you see the downside in the short term here being potentially?
I see a lot of upside. I hope in the short term it has some type of correction, because as we all know, if we follow any type of market, if you have pullbacks along the way, that makes for a healthier trade for everybody. But in the short term, it may not pull back. I keep thinking every day now, since it got around 1800, well, it probably should start pulling back now, but so far it doesn't seem to be. It kind of flattened out here for the last several days and pulled back into the 1700s, but now you're saying it's back around 1900 again, so I don't know that it's really going to have that big of a pullback at this point.
Charlie, good points there. I want to ask you about some of the altcoins here. They're gaining a lot of attention. A lot of the spillage from Bitcoin enthusiasm is going into some of these other currencies. And I just want to get your thoughts as to where do you see their relevance, and do any of them catch your interest?
Well, at this point, I'm probably the biggest fan of Bitcoin, but with all of the scaling issues that are still going on, I hope that the two parties that are quote-unquote fighting amongst themselves can come to a consensus and they can work it all out. But in the interim, it looks like Litecoin, one of the alternative coins, has already implemented a lot of this stuff, and they've implemented a new software fork. It's called Segwit, and that will help the scaling and possibilities of the Litecoin to grow exponentially onto the internet, and it could possibly be one of the best digital cryptocurrencies going forward. It's also had a huge price run here over the last 6 months. It went from, I think it went from something around $2. And here on my last report I think it was up around $25. So it's had quite a run as well. Right.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. And I would say that the whole Bitcoin scaling debate and the underlying concerns in that the fees might go up and transactions taking a long time. Many are saying and calling Bitcoin in its role as digital gold, where people store their wealth for long-term savings in Bitcoin. And some of these other digital currencies will be ones that we use for microtransactions. And is that something that you see as the future for digital currencies?
I think you bring up, at this point in time, if we were to have an economic crisis today or a currency crisis, I think everybody would move right over to Litecoin, and I think Litecoin could probably scale up real quickly from here and take care of the day-to-day stuff that Bitcoin may or may not be able to handle today. So I think you bring up a good point. I'm not so sure that on some of these other coins, they all seem to have their own little unique little properties, like the Monero coin is a very good one if you want to have a private transaction. Litecoin right now has probably got the best scaling opportunities. Then there's Dash. It says it has the combination of the two. It's got the privacy and it's also got the ability to do fast transactions. So I think there's a lot of speculation out there. I know Andreas Antonopoulos is very skeptical of anything outside of Bitcoin, and I kind of have a tendency to follow what he thinks, because I think he is a very bright individual who has studied this way, way more than probably all the rest of us.
That's true. And I know a lot of people are saying Bitcoin might be MySpace. And so one of these other ones might be Facebook. And we know how that ended up. MySpace is almost non-existent, and Facebook is the absolute king. So is it concern you that we might have that situation with Bitcoin, and what might happen to your long-term savings if we do see that happen? Or is it possible for Bitcoin to continue to grow despite what another digital currency does? Even if it gets surpassed, Bitcoin could still go to 10,000 while Litecoin continues to grow and its market cap potentially surpasses Bitcoin one day, for instance.
I think Bitcoin is probably the chosen one to be in. I guess what I would base a lot of it off of is I think I'd rather have some of my money in Bitcoin at this point in time and take the chance on it surviving versus having any of my money in the bank. Because after the Cyprus event back in 2013, where they came in and clipped all of those investors that were above $100,000, that made me really nervous after I started doing all the research on that to see what our current banking system is. And basically our current banking system allows the bankers to confiscate our monies and take them as well. So I don't think I really want to leave any significant amount of money or cash in a bank, because I think that same incident could happen here in the United States, and we may not have the luxury of pulling our money back out. I think Bitcoin at this point in time is a far, far safer investment than any type of savings that I would want to hold in the bank.
Yeah, it's a good point. Living in the Western world, we've had and experienced and enjoyed some relative stability in the fiat currency, but in a lot of other countries, they've seen the brutal end to paper fiat money backed by their governments who have been reckless and hyperinflated and just major problems trying to keep them in the banking system. And of course, because of that, we've seen Bitcoin thrive, such as areas like Cyprus, Greece, Venezuela, Argentina, some of these other countries, China even. And I think it's important to note that, because for many living in, maybe parts of Europe or the US who haven't dealt with a major currency crisis, this might creep up a little more harshly than you would have anticipated. Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I read something yesterday that told me that the people of India and the people of Venezuela are having to pay a 20% premium in their country right now to try and buy Bitcoin, because their currency is devaluing so quickly in their country. And of course, then there's been lots of negative publicity over in those countries by the governments trying to slow it down, saying that Bitcoin is not a safe investment. And so the people are flocking over to it, but now they're starting to have to pay that premium just to get into it.
Right. And you know what? I was having the same conversation I was having this morning with the gold community leader, who I respect, by the way, but it just has no respect for digital currencies. One of the things he brought up is, what if the government comes after Bitcoin in a large way? Look what happened at the Mt. Gox situation. And when that exploded, the fear that was instilled into Bitcoin caused the price to collapse. And everyone really got shaken up after that incident. But my response was, well, that Mt. Gox incident really educated people on counterparty risk. And having gone through that, Bitcoin has proven itself to be very resilient through that. And the concern that a lot of people have is, if the government goes after it, then we have a situation where people get scared and the price of Bitcoin collapses. Do you think that would be the likely reaction if the government came down hard on Bitcoin, or would Bitcoin actually go up in that scenario?
I honestly can't even give you a response on that one. I think, yes, we are in this Bitcoin's digital currency, and what would I say is the best word? How would I describe that? It's probably, infancy would probably be the best word I'd say. There is no guarantee this thing's going to survive. It may be the next MySpace. but it's already survived. What is it on the last count? I think I read something yesterday where it's survived 92 deaths, and now it's back again. So I have a feeling this thing may have a little longer legs to it than a lot of people in the gold space may be giving it credit. But there's nothing wrong with gold either. Gold is a great investment as well. I just think this is a whole lot easier to transact over the internet with. You can do very, very small amounts. So I think going forward, we're all going to adapt to some type of digital cryptocurrency because, well, take your normal bank account. Let's go back to that again. Your normal bank account is basically a bunch of zeros and ones. It's all digital as well. But if you try and go down to your bank and you try and send any type of payment through the wire transfer system, it's basically very difficult to do, and they charge pretty high fees. You got to fill out a lot of forms. You got to generally wait 2 to 3 days to make sure your money went through. So the banking industry really hasn't evolved and adapted as fast as they needed to keep up with new things like Bitcoin that have been coming out.
All right, Charlie. Well, hey, I want to give you an opportunity here to share some information about yourself, any closing thoughts as to what you're advising people on, and let people know about your website, easycryptocurrency.com.
I would say I think everybody should explore getting into some type of digital currency. My biggest frustration when I got into this is I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of information out there that I could trust. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of information that could help give me the information I needed to get started. So if you'll go to my website, everything you will need on easycryptocurrency.com is available for free for you to get started. You do not have to buy anything in order to get started. I show you a video step by step on how to set up your very first Bitcoin account. And then you can learn all the steps you want to go to from there. I also offer a free 16-video Armory wallet course to show you how to set up your Armory offline storage wallet so that you don't have to worry about some hacker getting into your computer and trying to steal all your Bitcoins. Basically, the Armory wallet will take all your Bitcoins off the internet so nobody can have access to them. And that's all free on the website as well, so you don't even have to worry about signing up or having to buy anything there. You can roll over to the website and get all of that for free.
All right. Well, hey, Bitcoin Charlie, everyone. Charlie, thanks for coming on the line with me, sharing your knowledge, and educating everyone today on Crush the Street.
Well, thanks so much, Kenneth, for having me.